Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of It Gets Butter. On this episode, I'm very excited to have a good friend of mine. He is the husband to the very funny Helen Keeney, but more than that, he's become a good friend of mine. We get to talk about how traveling and work, which really hits in right now because I'm in New York City doing shows and I'm living that travel life, how that can affect your life. We break that down. He offers some great advice. And then, interestingly, his comfort food is almost more the comfort of making the food, although the food sounds delicious. It's a great episode. It's my friend Eddie Shasek. Stick around. Here's your next episode of It Gets Butter. Perfect. We are back with a new episode of It Gets Butter. I don't know what number this is because I don't know what order I'm doing this in. We are here with my friend Eddie Shasek. Did I say your last name right?
Close enough.
Is it Shasek?
I never was actually taught to say it, but I would say it's Shasek.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you never taught to say your last name. You've heard people say your last name?
Around the dinner table. Yeah, but I just choose the version I like.
Okay. So how do you say it?
Shasek.
Shasek?
Yeah.
I've never said it like that. How long have we known each other? 5 years now? Something like that?
Maybe more.
Maybe, yeah. I've said it wrong for multiple years. All right.
You're not alone.
Good to know. I think I'm making it fancier.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to avoid your last name. So we have my friend Eddie here.
Sounds good.
Eddie, a couple things I like about you, especially for this podcast. You have traveled a lot for work.
I'd say
and
so.
not for work.
Yeah.
You've been around. You're a guy who likes food. You're big on cooking, which is which I think is an interesting thing. And then, I think you have a bit of a life that I don't know about, and that's going to be kind of a fun thing, is learning a little bit more about you. So let's start with a little bit about you. You were born in Hollywood, Florida. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
We're native Floridians.
South Florida, yeah.
All right. We used to be a rarity. I don't think we're a rarity anymore.
Well, I mean, I think part of the reason I moved to the Tampa Bay area is because in the Miami area, it's mostly now transplants, and it's people that didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
Where in Tampa, I felt like, or the St. Pete area especially, it's more people who live here their whole lives. So there's more of that ownership feeling, and there's kind of some more pride in the community and taking care of it. So that's what kind of drew me here.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I have a friend that was born in the Hollywood, Florida area, and I don't know if we talked about this. Do you know how it got its name?
No.
So this could be urban legend. I don't know. Okay. I've never cared enough to look it up.
Yeah. I like the legends, as we talked about earlier.
We'll deal with the legends. So allegedly, Hollywood, Florida has its name because back in the 20s, like people were coming down to St. Pete in the 20s. That's a big green bench area.
Yeah, right.
Babe Ruth was playing here. He was bringing all of his Hollywood friends out here.
Him and Marilyn Monroe,
that was
somebody else. Yeah.
Well, like the Don Cesar had F. Scott Fitzgerald was staying at it.
Yeah.
And Al Capone was coming into town. So in an attempt, and then people started going down to Miami, and you see that kind of happening in the 40s. Yeah. In an attempt to get people to the city, Hollywood, Florida changed their name to Hollywood just to confuse people, because they were like, oh, you want to go to Hollywood? We're Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I was like, how dumb were people in the 20s and 30s that they didn't understand the difference between Hollywood, California, and Florida? But I guess because if you were like living out in LA and you were coming to this area, there was a familiarity with the name.
Right. New Hollywood.
Yeah, so my understanding is they changed the name to Hollywood, Florida to get people from Hollywood there.
And in the 70s, they tried to make it Tree City, USA by planting a bunch of block olive trees, which actually don't produce black olives until like 50 or 60 years later. So it just dropped a bunch of garbage on all the sidewalks.
They were in it for the long game on that one.
That's right.
All right, so you've lived in St. Pete for a while.
Yeah, 30 years almost now.
30 years now. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty. I didn't know you were here that long. That's awesome.
Late 90s, mid 90s.
All right. And then where do you find your affinity still towards Florida, or?
Well, we're going through a thought process right now as a family, deciding to possibly change locations, just because I'm over 50 years old now, kind of been Florida my whole life. And although I've traveled everywhere, I've never really lived anywhere else.
Okay, yeah.
And so, never had seasons, never had, different varieties of culture. Maybe I'm not super fan of every element of the Florida culture. So, just really try something new is really on my mind. Okay. But it's a new thing. I haven't really allowed myself to think about leaving Florida until recently.
Well, I think growing up in Florida, and I'll speak from my experience on it. Growing up in Florida, everybody talks about Florida and all the jokes. Tampa Bay is such a butt of jokes.
Right.
But it's like,
Just
it is one
they
of those.
publish their AP feed. That's it.
But it is one of those, when you grow up here, none of it seems weird. Seeing an alligator when you're walking around is not a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Iguana hitting you on the head. No big
that's a
deal.
still body of water. There's going to be an alligator.
That's right.
People are playing golf it's just one of those, like, I grew up going to play beach volleyball the day after Christmas because that's just what my life was.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
swimming in the, actually, me and Caroline went swimming on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. And that's just, but it's not weird for us because it's just life.
That's right.
For us. And then I'm finding that as I travel more right now, like, I keep forgetting seasons exist because I'm Florida born and raised.
Right.
So, like, I will literally, like, we just, I was doing a gig in Atlanta, and it was Matt's birthday. We were in Atlanta beginning of the month, and I was like, oh, yeah. Although we're just driving 6.5 hours there, 7 hours there, I need to pack differently. I'm going to need a jacket.
Oh, I've gone to Calgary without a jacket.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's like everything's not like this.
That's right. I just forget.
It's just,
well, it's
so
really,
used to it.
there's like there's the coastal and then there's the spine. Like you can just delineate it between people who are scared of sharks and people who are scared of alligators.
Yeah,
people who live in the center of the Florida don't care about alligators, and people who live on the edge really don't care about sharks.
Yeah. So, all right, what is your relationship to food, would you say?
Well, it's definitely been a love-hate relationship because, with health, issues over time and wanting to be a better dad longevity-wise,
Sure.
I've got to figure out.
Looking at it differently now.
Yeah, how to balance that. But I think that I love interesting flavors. Like no one will ever buy me a plain bag of chips or a plain bagel. I want the weirdest flavor, the most unusual thing. And I think some of that comes with my travels that I've done all around the world and really gotten that experience. So now I've gotten to the point where I'm not afraid of trying all kinds of things, and I love trying different things. Actually, when I go out to restaurants with friends, I will never order what someone else ordered at the table. So my buddy Steve, he definitely, not your brother, he definitely will try to order last and intentionally order what I ordered just to piss me off because he knows this about me.
That's a good friend.
Just because I like to see different things and what's available, And
I think that's really good, though, because I feel like, did that come from your parents or does that come from traveling? What do you think?
I think it came from maybe traveling more. It's just kind of want to be open-minded about what's out there.
So, like, I got to travel a lot as a child, which was very fortunate. I'm very lucky on that. Mm-hmm. And I've got to do a bit of world traveling as a child. And my parents were always like, when we're in a region, we're going to try that food. You may not like it, but you're going to try it. And I traveled with, like, my aunt, my dad's one sister, and her family. We were in Europe. We did a little European tour. And they were looking for the McDonald's in every city we were at. And we were not. And I think that really instilled in me trying things. When I was in North Carolina, there was a deer in the kitchen. We're trying venison. And I was like, and it's delicious.
Yeah. Now, did the deer wander into the kitchen?
It didn't last long if it did. It wasn't conscious when I walked in.
Okay, gotcha.
But it was like, that was instilled in me. But again, I think that came from traveling early on. And then my parents being like, well, we're not going to waste our time traveling. I will say an interesting fact, and I want to give respect where it's due to my cousin Tom, who was on that trip and hitting those McDonald's. Now when I visit, he lives in San Francisco, which is such a vibrant city for food.
Yeah, I've been there.
And when I visited him and went out to dinner with his family, like, his daughter, who was, I want to say, like 6 at the time, was like, she was getting the scallop linguine, and I was like, what is happening? And they were doing escargot, and I was like, this is not the Tom I grew up with. But it's because he started traveling for work, and he got out of that mindset. So it was nice to see, like, even if his parents didn't instill it in him, he sought it out. And it sounds like you sought it out, and that's good. So I like that.
I got to give a little credit to my mom. She definitely did the try at least one bite.
Okay, that's good.
Mode.
Yeah.
And then in the &80s with the dance aerobics craze, there was a lot of things made of chickpeas. So we didn't really like that so much. And then my cousin, whose dad Jim was very chefy. Okay. They in their family did a lot of like escargot and things like that. So when I would go over there for family Christmas, I would experience some things. So that opened the door for when I traveled, and then I got really broad exposure.
Well, that's good.
And we're talking Africa, Singapore,
Yeah, I was going to say, you've traveled. Let's just briefly kind of go over the travels, because that's going to go into kind of your culinary influence, let's say.
Yeah.
I know you did a fair amount of time you've been in Australia. I put a koala up in the background for you.
Appreciate that, yeah. Very soft.
Yeah. Where are some of the other places you've been?
So, all for work, mostly, at least initially, and on someone else's dime. So this is not a bougie scenario, right. the fancy guy. But definitely in 1 year's time, I went to Africa 6 times and Australia 9 times in the same year. So it definitely is part of my tragic story as well, because it takes you away from family. But I went to Singapore for a 3-hour meeting, but on the way there, got diverted to Japan for a while, and so I got to try things there. Definitely a lot of London, tons around the Bay Area and San Francisco, and all the Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley and Russian River, and that's where I would say I've gotten. If someone ever asked me what is the best meal you've ever had in your life, that's out there.
It's right in there.
Yeah.
What part of Africa were you at?
So all South Africa, and then some, in the kind of Kruger Reserve there, but so Pretoria and Johannesburg, and definitely some positive, a little bit, and mostly negative experiences there. Nothing related to the culture, but I just had a food allergy of some sort that I didn't expect, which caused me
maybe one of the spices there or something. Do you know what it was?
I think it might have been some fruit I had at this breakfast buffet, because after that I had the whole body itch, tip of the toes, the top of the head, for 3 days straight. It was just insanity. But so you can't have you have to have some side effects with all the positive experiences.
You try everything.
But lots of great grilling and meat, like in Alberta, Canada versus Houston, like the competition around who's got the best steak. And then you add in some of the Africa beef and grilling out there. That really is one of the grilling. And then, you can't leave out, Australia and Victoria and the beef that they have there. It's the grilling culture is something that really, really caught my eye.
And that goes right into the next question would be, what is your comfort food, your go-to comfort food? And so you've said your go-to comfort food is really barbecue with interesting sides. And you gave a great recipe that we'll put out, the Shaz,
I go with.
Shaz, all right. Apple smoked ribs. And so there's a great breakdown of how you do your apple smoked ribs. And so we'll put that out for people. And my curiosity is was it the traveling? Because I know you, and I know you love, like, the best toys you like to buy have to do with grilling, smoking, cooking type thing. Did that come from the traveling and going around and seeing this grilling and realizing that kind of fire-touching meat creates this?
I definitely like the fire management element of it, man and fire and caveman stuff. Definitely like that. But I think that one of the tragic side effects of all this travel, and really I'm speaking about it in a very positive light, but it took me away from my daughter growing up for a very important period of time. Like I'd say 12 years I was on the road almost 100% of the time. There was a 2 or 3 year period where I was only home Friday and Saturday nights. That's it. And it was definitely isolating. So I would be in a hotel room with no friend network, no family network, and really kind of just alone a lot for a decade. And so I lost my friend network at home because you're not participating in anything at all.
People stop inviting you when they know you're not going to be able to come.
You just don't exist anymore. So I became like this ghost. And I think that caused me to really need to figure out some hobby, something that I could dive into. I tried like fantasy football, photography, different things. I could care less about some of the photography is kind of cool because you're going to interesting places.
Yeah, but nothing passionate, nothing really.
But getting into the grilling, I think it had some toys. It had something I could do on the weekends. I didn't need other participants.
Right.
It wasn't like getting into baseball. You know. And then I could get good at it. And then when I'm away, I could dive into it. I could go to these restaurants and these places around the world, see different techniques and different spices. I could buy a type of salt or this from there and this from there. And it really got me a chance to glue together my own version of what that is. And I think the recipe I shared with you is kind of a culmination of lots of things. I'm definitely into spicy, hot sauce food.
Yeah, you make your own hot sauce.
I do, yeah.
We got that back here as well.
That's one version of it. And I really love that. I grow hot peppers. But This particular recipe, I made it intentionally 0 spice.
Okay.
It is just flavor, and that way it's more, pleasing to most people. And I really love, like you said, the toys and the techniques and the detail that it takes to make good barbecue. And it's time too. It takes 14 hours, 7 hours, 3 hours.
Time, definitely. Yeah.
So you feel like you created something, and it wasn't just like I slapped some things in a pan and then whatever came out. Oh, it happened to taste good, because all those things individually just taste good.
Yeah.
So I really like the detail of it.
And that is a good point on barbecue. It's by far an art. I mean, the people that are pit masters and so on, like, that's generationally learned a lot of times, and it is passed down, and it's a lot of work that's gone into that.
And some of them fail.
And some of them,
I'd say I first created these. The very session I did before that went in the trash. Right. It was garbage. And then I made these, and they're probably the best ribs I've ever made in my life.
And that's got to be really tough though too. Is like you devote, because this takes. Your barrel of smoking for about 3 hours. I have your recipe up. I'm cheating a little bit.
4 hours total, yeah.
So you spend 4 hours on something and get to the end and take a bite and go, I can't have anybody eat this.
Yeah.
I would never do this to anyone.
It was garbage.
And that is 4 years that you were like, that's 4 hours of, okay.
And I know what I did wrong, which is good.
That's good.
Just couldn't fix it later.
That's the problem with, like, when you're doing the long cooks, right?
Right.
Is that, like, all the stuff at the beginning is so important. Yeah. Because once it's started, once it's cooking, after that it's management. Am I wrong? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Well, there's steps that matter.
Yeah, it's a lot of management after that, heat and so on.
It's hard to recover from a mistake up front.
Even
if you don't know you made it.
A front is definitely going to only exasperate as it cooks longer, right?
Well, also, you salt pork, and if you only leave the salt on there for an hour, it draws all the moisture out.
But it doesn't
then it doesn't go back in. If you leave it for 6 hours, which is what I'm recommending here at a minimum, then it kind of reabsorbs with the binder that you've put on the outside, so it brings the flavors back in again.
Yeah.
And so that's a key mistake that would make it garbage.
I'm sure you're saying garbage. I'm sure people would still enjoy it, but
that's generous.
But I'm also curious because this is we'll say a later in life comfort food of yours, because you said this started early 2000s is what I got from you.
Yeah, that's probably fair. My daughter was born in 2002.
That's
the segment of time I was traveling a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like how this food connected with you, because it gives you like you said, you don't need anybody else around. This is something you can do and you can master yourself type thing.
Right.
But it's also something that when it's done, you can share with other people, which is kind of the beauty of cooking.
Right. Well, early on in it, the neighborhood I lived in, I didn't know any of my neighbors because I'd never been around.
Because of the travel.
So the smell wafting drew in, some flies, which were actually very friendly people from around the neighborhood. And I even put on Facebook or whatever, hey, I'm cooking now. So, the scent's out there, you can come on over, and I kind of try to open the door a little bit with that. So socially.
So what was maybe a comfort food growing up then? Do you have anything nostalgic comfort food that you had growing up?
Yeah, there's some that are personal to me, like around my mom used to make this kind of like molasses candy that you keep in the freezer in aluminum foil, because I think it's before the days of plastic wrap, possibly in the late 70s. But then you'd peel off the aluminum foil and little shards of it would stay in the molasses and like shock your teeth. And those are not pleasant things, but they're memorable.
But they're memorable.
They're memorable. Yeah. We were definitely steak and potatoes type of folks, and my dad definitely did the grill on a recurring basis. Like, this is our standard. We'd watch MASH on TV and have steak and potatoes. It was like our standard.
Where are your parents from?
Well, they've basically whole lifed it in the same area of Hollywood, Florida. But my dad was born in Illinois and my mom Pennsylvania. So, but they. Their family migrated there when they were in their, single digit ages. Okay. So all right, that's interesting though. Yeah, I was trying to think if there was like I get a lot of the meat and potato is sometimes kind of a northern and Midwest type mentality of cooking type thing. Yeah, it could be. And so if that was coming from their family, I was trying to figure out how much that played into it type thing. Our standards, like the Thanksgiving standards, for example, are more on the sweeter side. Okay. And then, over the years, I've kind of migrated to more of the savory side of dishes. Right. And talking about
and playing the balance of between them with
trying to figure out the balance of it, because the ribs definitely have a sweet side to it. But I try to go lower sugar in general in life. But you just can't make good barbecue if it's not sweet at all.
Yeah, you need that.
But the sides, the sides can be more savory. Like I'm definitely at the stage of I feel comfortable with my barbecue skills. I don't have a side game.
Right.
I need a side game. And Caroline and I were just talking about this like a couple days ago. I need my side game. I'm deciding I'm going to go with an awesome potato salad and an awesome mac and cheese. So I am going to be watching your podcast for someone who comes up with a mac and cheese. Because
well, funny enough, the first episode that will come out is my partner Matt, and he gives his grandmother's macaroni and cheese recipe. Wow. And he gives the nuances of it, and it is what he brings to every party.
I'll have to make it my own, but it might be a spicy version that I'm kind of mentally cooking up a spicy version of mac and cheese.
You'll play with it a little bit.
I'm welcoming Matt's mac and cheese.
Yeah, there's going to be that out, so you'll get that one first and foremost. All right, so with comfort food comes to the other part of the podcast on kind of why we need comfort sometimes. So I ask everybody to kind of talk about a hard time you've gone through in life or are going through. We'll talk about how you went through it, going through it, got over it, getting over it. And the point of that in the podcast, if it's not obvious, and apparently I'll be mentioning it every podcast, is because I want people to be able to tune in and go, oh, I've been through something.
Right.
Oh, maybe how they're going through it might open up something, and maybe how I can go through it, and that type of. It's just giving an opportunity for other people to not feel alone in going through stuff. Besides being a delicious place to get recipes from of a podcast. So let's talk about what hard time are you up for talking about. Everybody has a bunch in their life, obviously.
That's right. That's never just one.
Yeah, there's never just one. But like, what's a defining one for you? That
I did kind of allude to it before. Is that when I became a dad and I was traveling a lot with a prior job, and I realized that I was completely absentee of the situation. I would come home, one weekend to the next, and there'd be a progression from smile to laugh or crawl to walk, and I was missing it. And so I intentionally left that job to go to a new one that was supposedly going to have less travel. 10% was actually at the thing.
Right.
And then within a few weeks of there, I was in Australia for 5 weeks straight.
Oh, okay.
No coming home at all. And that just was devastating. And then it added on to the more global travel. It was more regional travel. And it really just took me away from being the dad I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out of the cycle. So, it really caused me to not be present at a time I really tried to be present, with the whole changing jobs and everything. It just didn't work out.
And also, I would imagine.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would imagine you bit of a bread earner at that point, because I imagine that that's also part of the problem in that is you're realizing it's taking you away, but you're also realizing what you're providing for the family. And that balance, I assume, is its own battle inside.
Well, there's a dichotomy there. You whether it's real or imagined, you feel underappreciated.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you're being perceived as not participating, and there's no there's all kinds of psychology around that. Of your point of view and others' point of view, and we won't say anyone's right or wrong.
Yeah,
but I think the important thing is, if we just talk about from my point of view, is that I was creating a life I didn't experience.
Right.
And it was very, very difficult. And I don't think I even internalized what I was going through until I was well into it.
Okay.
And then also you start to imagine to yourself that you don't know how to do anything else. And there's no other option. You feel completely trapped and stuck in that career model.
Yeah.
I did. I'll say I do. I won't say you. I do. I felt trapped in that career model, and I didn't really feel like I had an exit. So that adds another layer of challenge to it.
Absolutely.
Is feeling there's no exit. And so taking these trips and trying to pull something positive out of them, like realizing that the building I was in was wrapped in pear trees, and there was these pear blossoms that would bloom in the springtime, and or watching the Darwin ducks, I would call them, the geese that didn't migrate and are just walking around the frozen lake, and creating my own narrative around that. You start to create this kind of positives out of it the best you can. but the damage has been done, So, and then add on to global travel, there's all kinds of health issues that come with it, like deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolisms, and being on the verge of death a couple of times, with not necessarily being dramatic about it. It was actually ICU scenarios, and then you're like, what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
And then so led up to another career change and other stages of life, and maybe on life 3.0 or whatever at this point. But it's definitely where the food element for me is, I've got to figure out, how do I get my portions right? How do I get the content right? How do I do the right amount of whatever the strategy is?
Yeah.
Whether it's vegan, keto, whatever it is. I think it is. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Just choose one. Just stick with it. And so I went with the, all right, well, I'm going to do the meat thing, but I'm going to try to do it with lower sugar, and I'm going to try to do this, And so then I started leaning into the grilling, and then having that, like we talked about a little earlier, is latching on to different techniques and different locations and turn a positive out of the travel.
Sure.
And then eventually I've got externally motivated from friends and family, you can actually do something else. You can actually leave the scenario. And now I'm in a scenario where I don't travel as much. Of course, COVID helped me with not traveling as much.
With curbing that some.
Yeah. But even the travel that I do now is completely reasonable. Like hit North Carolina for a day.
Right.
It's like super easy compared to what I was doing before.
And I think that that happens a lot, because I can tell you, so I was in restaurants from about 15 until 5 years ago. So that's a fair amount of my life I'd worked in restaurants. Mm-hmm. And I always tell the story about when I got out of restaurants. I mean, I was managing at a hotel, but it was still restaurants. When I got out of that and I got into a different career altogether, mm-hmm. And I did that to help with my comedy career. It's just I needed a change of, I couldn't work 60 hours a week, nights, weekends, holidays. It was not letting me pursue.
Even if you love it,
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. It just wasn't letting me. But also, and I don't know how much I loved it as much as, it's what I knew. It's what I've known for 25 years. It's what I know.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's in my veins. I can go back into it today, and I'll probably be very good at it because it's what I know.
Sure.
But then when I got out of it, it was such a jarring feeling of having to, and I'd go out on a weekend, or I'd go shopping at the store after work type thing in a regular 9-to-5 job. I was like, why are there so many people here? But it was like, this is what everybody does. And, because you can be caught in this loop, right?
Sure.
Of this is what I know. This is what I know well. And I know I'm good at this. And this is the industry I know. And then I always, and it's funny because a chef that I had on one of the episodes, I said this 4 years ago, I guess, when I got out of restaurants, and he remembered it to this day. I said, getting out of the restaurant industry and into another industry is like getting out of an abusive relationship. And you're like, oh, I don't need to be punched to be loved. Oh, that's interesting. That's the only love I knew.
That's funny. Yeah.
And it's not anything against the restaurant industry. It's just that's what the restaurant industry was. It can be somewhat abusive. It takes advantage of you. And that's just my experience in it from 25 years in it. But it is, you're working holidays, you're doing this, you're doing that. You're putting in a lot of effort to make other people's lives happy. And when you leave that, you maybe don't realize how little you've taken care of yourself.
Right.
Until all of a sudden you have a complete change in careers. And I went into clinical research, and I had a 9-to-5 job, off weekends, off holidays. And I was just like, now I can focus on me.
Right.
And I can imagine you were in that where you're traveling, you're doing these things, right? And that's, and you're good at it. That's why they keep sending you.
I think so.
Yeah. So it is one of those
clear.
You're like, I know I'm good at this, but this is the life I know. It's the life I've been leading.
Right.
So
I was talking about microcultures in industries recently. So, we saw the Cirque du Soleil show, and I can only imagine that on the road there, one guy's like, well, I can juggle 12 pins. I can only juggle 8. Well, I outrank you. And then that becomes a huge thing that I don't care about at all.
Right.
Where in your restaurant industry, there's those things. for travel, for me, a buddy of mine, Greg, and I were going back and forth to Calgary for 50 weeks in a row.
Right.
I mean, it was actually during when the Flames and the Lightning were in the Stanley Cup final. So many years ago, 2003 or 4, whatever it was. And we kept index cards. And we would, as we were traveling and observing these like regular things, we would write down these observations of what is our everyday that everybody else would think is maybe interesting and just unbelievable. And we thought we'd write a book at some point, but of course it ended as index cards in the bag. But I started relaying this to another friend of mine that was traveling with me, and we happened to get seats together. And I was talking about all the different observations and all this thing. It was like, flight issues and possible crashes and things. And a lady tapped me on my shoulder and she said, "Can you guys just stop? You're upsetting everybody on the plane." And we're
we all don't want to deal with that.
We were just talking about our everyday life, which is pretty.
But that's just it. You're in the life. You don't really,
Yeah.
All right. So looking back at kind of the hard time that you went through.
Sure.
2 questions I want to have for you. And I think we touched on one, and I really want to go back into that.
Sure.
Because I liked it. The question would be, looking back, what role did food play in that kind of getting through that hard time? And I liked the way that you put it was that when you got into grilling and you still had to do all this traveling, you started, well, if I have to go somewhere, let me looking for things that had to do with new flavors or something like that. You were changing your thought process on, like you said, turning a negative into a positive type thing.
Right.
You were changing your thought process on how you were conceptualizing what was happening too, which is very smart a way to do things, because if you have to go do something, there's an easy change from have to and get to, and just changing that in your head.
Right.
I get to go to Australia where I'm going to experience this and this and this. Now, yes,
I'm not sure I ever got there, but I definitely was trying to not just be in the hotel every night.
Sure.
And I think that it's so easy to just go to the hotel, get a burger, and go to sleep. And then you're like, 60% of your life is wasted.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out what will take me out of the hotel. And at the time I was in California, I would go to these amazing restaurants, and I was also deep diving food TV, whether it's Chopped or something else.
Yeah.
But the judges on the Chopped at the time, because I liked that show because it's about what ingredients can I make something out of. And so when I'm going all these places, that's the same thing. What ingredients or elements can I use from the places I'm going and make something out of it, like a giant chop basket. But I would go to the celebrity chef restaurants because I had some per diem. I was able to use that and experience those things as a positive outside the hotel. And I would sometimes drive 50 miles to go to some hotel. I'd rope in some of the colleagues. Yeah. There's this guy, Steve Ornberg, that I travel with a lot. And he's like, "I'll go out to dinner with you as long as we don't go 50 miles. But then he liked going to, Red Door or whatever, the French Laundry or where the hell we went to, and it didn't regret it after the fact. But
that's good. That's that's taking you out. And that is, I think people don't realize, because as you know better than most, for like stand-up comics, when we're on the road, people think, oh, you get to go all these different cities, and how cool is that? And as you know from somebody that's been on the road, you pointed out earlier, it's very isolating. Like, the reality is, we're waiting, well, especially I'll speak on stand-up comics, we're waiting for the show to start. So we spend a lot of time killing a day. Now, one thing that I do is when Matt comes with me, we love finding a local diner. Okay. Like, I want a local Greasy Spoon diner that we're going to have breakfast at. When we check into a place and it's like, have you already looked up breakfast? Like, we go to find a diner.
So breakfast is like the anchor.
Well, breakfast is a good thing for us.
Because you got the show in the evening, so it's not like dinner can be the anchor.
Yeah, so we're not going out to dinner. And then it's
you don't want to eat experimental food before you stand on the stage for 45 minutes.
You never want to do that. But then it's and then maybe we'll find something else to do in the afternoon that's kind of fun or something like that, or just relax, or maybe I need to work on editing a video or something, or he's got work to do. But it's always one of those, like, wherever we're at, the concept of finding a diner, because it connects you also to that community.
Yeah,
Because that's the thing a diner is that's the locals. Where
Right,
are the
right.
locals going? I want to go there.
There's always a cross section. There's one homeless guy.
Yeah. But I think so many people can just as easily spend time in the hotel room, just be in that hotel room, and then go do their work, and then go back to the hotel room. And that becomes very easy
For a
to
short
do.
period of time.
But
I will
think
tell you the best
you lose
bacon at a
yourself doing
Marriott
that.
is at the Concord Marriott in Concord, California.
Okay.
Best bacon at a Marriott.
Yeah.
Best broccoli is in New Jersey. The broccolini there at
That's
the
a
Marriott.
specific brag.
They're Marriott specific foods. So I know too much about the Marriott menu.
Right.
And so then you're like, okay, I should have known this.
You should.
The Marriott staff in Edgewater or someplace New Jersey actually gave me a Christmas present one year, and I'm like, okay, this is not good.
You're like, it's a sweet thing to do that puts you into a bad mood.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I don't want to be platinum on every airline. I'm actually happy that right now I'm only silver on Delta.
Right.
It's like, yes.
All right, so then here's the next question on kind of going through that isolation and that kind of part of your life. And I believe you probably answered this already as well, but how did you see yourself through it? So talk us out again, how you kind of changed that tide a little bit and then maybe gave yourself permission to go for a separate job. Did that really help with the outside influence on that, or how did that change in you to be able to say, I need this change?
Well, the realization is one thing. Like when I'm realizing that I get annoyed when there's something on the countertops. Because in hotels, there's nothing. There's one picture on the wall, standard furniture. And I start to be conditioned to that sterility of life. And I completely losing my network of friends completely. And the other part of my life before that, I was very social.
Right.
And I'm trying to get back that. The trigger event to really leave the situation I was in is really attributed to my wife, Helen. She encouraged me in a way that gave me permission to give it a try.
Right.
And I didn't believe that I could do something else. And she convinced me I could.
Okay,
and so
that's great.
without that, I definitely would not have made the move. And so that's one of the 3 times she believes she saved my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's so funny though, because I think in relationships, whether it be friend or marital or anything else, romantic, I think sometimes that's very important, saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Because I think we can believe in our partners and we can believe them to do anything. But sometimes it still helps just to say it, because hearing it sometimes is like, I need that. I need to be able to hear you say it. And then that triggers it in me, that makes me believe it. And it's just that little bit of...
And it's illogical,
right,
to think you can't actually do something else.
Yeah, by all means.
That doesn't make any sense.
You couldn't do that to start with, and then you could.
That's right, 20 or 30 years later.
Yeah.
But, so I don't want to go through 20 years of learning something new, but there's somewhere in the middle, and that's where we have got to.
What advice would you have for anyone going through maybe living that life right now of travel and isolation, losing themselves a little bit? What advice would you have for them?
Well, actually, there's 2 kind of scenarios. One where you go many cities, and there's other one where you do long runs in one city. 2 very different problems to solve. But one of the biggest challenges that make you feel like less of a human is you can't go get a haircut or go to the dentist or go to the doctor. And I think finding, like, joining one of those gyms that you can go to in any city.
Okay.
And going to that one, even though there's one in the hotel, because it's familiar. It's the same color scheme. It's the same staff, the same routine. Find a place, whether it's a national chain or something else, and to get a haircut on the road.
Right.
Like, even if you could do it on the weekend, intentionally do something normal on the road.
Create that kind of...
if you're sick, don't wait till you get home to go to the clinic.
Yeah.
Go in the middle of the week. Go after work. Take a day off if you have to.
Right.
Nurse yourself back to health. It's okay to actually take a day off in the city if you're sick, where some people won't do that. They'll just say, well, I'm on the road. I have to do it. Well, I have this agenda and I'm making this presentation.
Yeah.
You got to treat yourself like a human. And then I think what I was kind of talking about here is that then you got to find the positive in being different places.
Right.
But I think the normalcy and trying to create a life that is real in the travel city,
I think that's very smart.
Is a key element.
Yeah, I think that's very
like
smart.
literally going to the grocery store and buying either bottles of water or a bag of chips or whatever it is you want to buy to have supplies instead of just like living out of a bag.
Yeah.
I will not say the advice that a lot of people say, which is unpack.
Right.
Terrible advice. Don't ever do that. You gotta pack in the order where you use this stuff. I will say that I have a dirty clothes thing and just migrated over, but the unpack is horrible advice. You lose stuff.
So you're just gonna have to pack again. You're gonna leave stuff.
It's just great. It's just crazy talk.
Crazy talk on packing. Who does that? What advice would you have for yourself today to yourself, let's say 20 years ago, going through all of this? What advice would current Eddie give to Eddie in the thick of it that he probably needed to hear, but you can only see looking back type thing? Does that make sense?
It does. And I would say buy a business.
Okay.
I would have, even if I would have bought, 3 jet skis and stood on the beach and rented them out until I could buy 4 and then franchise that out to 3 other places or whatever it is. Laundromat, storage unit, anything that you could remotely be interested in. Steve and I talked about possibly buying a marina at one point, and we couldn't do it because it's expensive. But there's a good idea. But if I could have figured out how to, in my early 30s, scrape together enough to have something small and build it, I would have much rather blood, sweat, and tears into that versus taking home, 10% of what I'm earning for the corporate life.
Right.
However, now I'm at a place where corporate life feels good to me, the recurring salary and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not dissing on my current corporate life.
Right.
But in the hindsight, I would have gone entrepreneurial. If I could have, a lot of people fail doing that, but I think if I gave myself a chance in my early 30s, I would have maybe felt like I accomplished something different than what I accomplished.
And even on doing something like that, I think, as you're maybe in the thick of the traveling, but you're still bringing in that paycheck, that can go towards, if you decided to do something like a laundromat, like you said, or something like that. If you had made that investment, you need to be a little
present for that, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do. But if you're able to set up that with somebody, friend that's going to be able to do that, also kind of starts buying you your time out a little bit quicker, I would think, too.
I attempted different things that are like kind of side hustle type businesses, like an Amazon FBA or something like that. But you know what? That's not like building a business in the sense of a terrestrial business that actually like serves people, which is more passion for me. And actually, if I had real money to like, I put together real money, and what I wrote in the show notes is I would love to, like my lottery business is start a scholarship fund where I can actually slow boutique, handpick, and not only just find up and coming people that deserve, in my eyes, it gets to be me. I say deserve because I get to decide. And the college nod, but then they also are entered into some sort of mentorship program, where we can kind of pair them with long-term mentors that would get them from day 1 to day 300 and actually head on success. And then that hindsight advice, that's what made me think of it. I would be giving that to people
that'd be really
who
good,
are at that stage of their life, and then they could choose to take it or not.
And I like that in your concept for a boutique scholarship fund. It's focused on practical achievement too, which is smart. Like you said, that's setting somebody up for actual success. And it's like, yes, this is a great idea, and I believe in your idea, but how do we make sure your idea stays?
That's right. And they have to show some sort of discipline, like whether it's great at chess or great at basketball or great at grades, but it has to be not just because I happen to be great at it. It's because you put some energy into it and have some passion for what you're doing. And love it. I really would like to support someone to get to do what they love.
Right.
And the hardest part of that is what do you love?
Right.
Because if you tell me right now, what do I love? I'm not sure. I like doing these things. I like grilling and doing this stuff, but I don't want to open a barbecue restaurant.
Right. So you got to find that.
If I was 3 blocks from here, over a smoke pit every day, I don't know that I'd love it too long.
Well, Urban just closed down. That restaurant's open.
Urban?
Yeah.
I like that place.
Yeah.
I went there on my 50th birthday.
Yeah, they're open. They're ready to.
I almost wore their shirt today.
They are ready to be bought and moved into.
That'd be great for someone.
Speaking of the food, speaking of the barbecue, what type of person do you see enjoying your comfort food? So this recipe, if you picture the person cooking it, who is that person?
Oh, the person cooking it. So it's got to be someone with time on their hands.
Okay.
So they have to be kind of a loser, No, I mean, it's got to be someone who's willing to just give up a Sunday or a Saturday and decide, I want to do this and I want to make the day of it. There's plenty of time in between to, clean the pool or mow the lawn. And there's some technology that'll let you in your pocket see if your fire went off. But then if you're 15 minutes away from your house, it's gone.
Yeah.
You're done. But so it's someone with time in their hands that wants to tinker. It's a tinkerer that wants to play with the details and really, really care about, 10 degrees on the cook. You know? And then from a flavor standpoint, there's some creativity involved. And although I put the apple sauce in there because I was using apple wood on the smoke, there's another version of the sauce I make with peaches, and I do that with hickory smoke, and that is also fantastic. But I definitely want to layer in like a whole theme about everything. Like if I'm going to do pineapples in the sauce, I'm definitely going to crush some pineapples in the coleslaw. I like the idea of like going all in. It's got to be one of those all in people that likes the details and creativity.
Yeah. And doesn't mind putting in the work. I mean, that's...
the time, I don't know how much work it is. It's
the time, I guess,
it's the time, and then
the investment in there.
Being willing to throw it in the trash a couple times. I haven't had to do that very often, but there was a recent experience that's
there will be no throwing in the trash from this recipe. This recipe is great. I'm assuming I'll try it at some point.
Yeah.
All right, next question is, I'm always find this to be interesting and different. What would you consider to be your guilty pleasure food? It's like this is your comfort food, but what is the guilty pleasure? If your wife Helen's out of town and you're like, nobody's judging me eating this right now. Because that's different for people.
Oh yeah. It's a different type of comfort. I hate to say this, but there's not just one. But I will tell you the thing that popped in my mind first when you asked the question is that going through Publix, that's the time I often am my most health conscious.
Sure.
So, which is great because that'd be worse if you weren't at that time because then your house is loaded with it. But I will occasionally grab the banana pudding with the little Nilla wafers on top and put that into the cart. Yeah. And that is my... Oh yeah, that's my yeah. I'll go for the banana pudding, but also I really like going and hitting like a Vietnamese place and getting like the loaded up pho with the noodles and the vegetables and all that stuff, and just diving into a bowl of ugly eating that thing. I do love diving into like a fancy soup with all that stuff. I just really like it. That's not necessarily guilty, I guess, but it's I'd say it's shirt ruiner. So that I'll go with that.
It is a bib on it, but there's always that one thing at the store that you're just like, I'm gonna go ahead, this is just going to be, I know it's going to be 2 bites, but it's going to be 2 delicious bites that I'm going to enjoy.
Go with the banana pudding on that. But I'll tell you this, my death row meal, because that question's been asked, is stone crab claws with the mustard sauce served cold.
And that's how Florida you are.
That's a go-to. I mean, October 17th for years was my national holiday. Yeah. That's when they have Frenchies, they'll have the crab festival, and you go out there and you pay $80 for 2 claws. And, it used to not be that way, but it's the way it is now. So I will not do it unless I'm finding some guy that has a boat and he's selling it off the back of his truck.
I mean, if people don't know Florida and stone crab claws are so unique and so delicious and so sweet and good. There was when I was managing at the hotel, and I had a food runner. We had a somewhat slower day, and he said, "Hey, do you mind if I head out early? I'm going to go stone crabbing, and then I'll bring you back some." And I said, you
Why are
should
still
leave
here?
now.
Yeah, you shouldn't have asked.
I'll run your food. Get out of here.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with floaters.
And yeah,
There's
and
nothing wrong with them.
So he absolutely that day, 2 hours later, brought me back a couple claws,
Wow.
and I went back to the chefs in the kitchen, and I was like, hey, somebody cook these for me, and somebody was like, you don't know how to boil water, and I was like, first of all, I didn't want to just go into your kitchen.
No.
And then they were like, yeah, use the back line, and I was like, okay.
I've never cooked them because they have to be cooked like within a certain amount of time of catching it.
Yeah.
And if you overcook it, it's terrible. And I've never cooked it.
I absolutely cooked them. I made me a little sauce for them as well with what they had there. And then it was just, I mean, I apologize to the employees because they didn't get to it. But me and two other managers in my tiny office, ripping apart stone crab claws, making a mess everywhere,
Oh,
just being like, I mean, God bless, somebody else cleans this up.
Right.
And
you smack one and it just goes
it's everywhere.
And it's not doesn't go one way. It goes, there's a stripe around the room with
I was
smash
like,
pattern.
it's a unique way of being a manager at a restaurant in Florida where you're just like in
So
your
good.
office eating stone crab claws somebody brought to you just so they could have off earlier
Fantastic.
in the day.
You can have 5 traps recreationally, I think.
It's something like that. And
Then you got to go get them. And what do you do off season?
But I do like I mean, there are people that are going to say this, it's barbaric, but it is a sustainability of it.
Yeah.
You know, they're only taking one claw off and they're
can
letting
take
the
2
other.
now.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. I think the rules changed
I mean,
because
you're
they grow
completely
back so
ruining
fast. No,
what?
they promote the one underneath. You don't have to grow it from scratch. They have many claws that are tiny that they eat with, and then they just promote one to be defensive.
Oh, I didn't know
those
that
are
they
only
promoted them.
defensive. Yeah, and the eat ones they're tiny ones underneath,
Oh.
like this.
Is that the official ASL? Is that
That's right.
All right, so let's go into. I appreciate you being on the show. If people want to find you on Instagram, is the best place to find you.
Yeah, it'd be weird if they wanted to, but yeah,
You never
Instagram
know.
ShazFL.
You know, Shaz FL SHAZ FL.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Someone started calling me Shaz Daryl Williamson, and I just kept it.
Oh, that's fair enough. And then I'm excited to try the ribs at some point. And then any personal thoughts or advice in general for food people out there, grilling people out there, traveling people out there, anything?
I think just try stuff. I mean,
Just try
I'm
stuff.
not.
I think that's a great.
I'm
yeah.
not one to give advice because I don't know that I earned that, but I would say trying stuff is the key. And, and if it's something you don't recognize or you never tried, or especially regionally and culturally, like going into different cultures, and don't order the biscuits and gravy when you're somewhere that's not their thing. You know?
I think that's great advice, and I think again I got it from. My parents, you got it from your family in general, but also traveling. Don't be afraid to take a bite of something.
Yeah,
try at
spit it
least
out, really.
a bite. Like you may not like everything, but like just try it. And like there's things I'm pretty sure I'm not going to like, but you know what? I'll try it. I'll try a bite of almost. I will say almost everything. I mean, I've been to Scotland twice, and I've still never tried haggis.
I've had it,
but I'm not
bad.
Completely against it.
Yeah.
But yeah, try
head cheese.
Try everything. We tried. What was it? Marmite in Australia.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
That's like Vegemite in the UK.
Yeah.
Similar. It's the beer side effect.
It's it's.
Which
it's
goes
something.
with your other cast.
It's something. It's not.
I think it's the scrapings of the wheat from inside the beer keg or something.
Somebody was like, "We should put this on toast," and you shouldn't.
No,
you shouldn't.
No, it's not good.
a fan of it.
It's not good.
But I tried it.
I just have toast.
But I tried it. Yeah, so I think that's a great.
Yeah, try something. That's good.
Absolutely, try something, and who knows? It change how you see things. Change how you're going to cook your next thing. So
For sure.
Well, Eddie, thanks for being on, and that is another episode of It Gets Butter.